As always, nothing you hear on the Stripped Pod should be a substitute for personalised professional medical advice. Please always consult your clinician or other medical professional before making any changes to your diet, dosages, or healthcare plan.
Hello and welcome to The Stripped Pod, your weekly diabetes fix where we strip back the stigma for real honest conversations about diabetes beyond the numbers. I'm Ash, a passionate diabetes advocate and founder of Strip Supply.
And I'm Braden, co-host without a working pancreas.
Today's episode is brought to you by Dermal Therapy, whose Heel Balm is clinically proven to repair dry, cracked feet because healthy feet start with healthy skin. So coming up on today's pod, we're diving into the world of foot health with senior podiatrist and founder of Podiatry Beyond, Neda Piri, to explore why your feet deserve more attention. Yes, Braden, yours included. I don't want to see your feet. I can only imagine the state they're in after all of your running. Speaking of, Braden, what's been the highs and the lows of your week?
I am not going to show my feet on this podcast, otherwise I might have to charge you for it. But
I was gonna say, don't give that away for free.
Free content. Wow. My week's been good. I obviously wrapped up the book fair last weekend, which was unbelievable. The support from the community and everyone's had a great time, which is fantastic. But look, I haven't done much else apart from that. I am very grateful for a working sensor over that time because, I was not eating much at all while I was there running around on the ground. So very grateful for that. And actually, my sensor lasted the full 7 days again. So we're on a winner at the moment, touch wood, but
unreal.
We're on a winner. So it's going good. I think maybe the change in position on my arm might have helped. So that's actually really nice. Actually, it's actually just really nice to have a working sensor.
It's actually just really nice when the technology that you buy actually works.
I know. It's unbelievable. Who'd have thought? The low of my week, it probably happened to me last night, actually. I went for a run. That's the low. I went for a run.
No. Honestly, that would be my low.
Yeah. I was so dialed in for this run because I haven't run for probably a week beforehand just with the book fair and just being so busy and stuff. And I was so dialed in. The body felt physically amazing because I haven't been running or anything. And so was doing about 13 Ks because obviously I have the half marathon coming up in about 4 weeks, less than now. And I knew I was in trouble before I left the house because my level was 12.5 and still going up. So I knew I was in trouble. Obviously, I'd prefer to start running with a lower blood sugar level. Just because when you're sort of up that high, you don't feel great. You get a shortness of breath really quickly, and I think your heart rate increases a little bit. So I try to get it down, but then of course I knew if I have insulin on board that I was going to be in serious danger. So I prepared for this. I put in a little bit of insulin, but obviously my sensor and my pump have been talking to each other for the last hour or so beforehand. So I had insulin on board. And I remember before I left the house, I said to Emma, my partner, I was like, I'm in trouble here. This is not going to go well. So I took lollies and a gel with me, those energy gels, and they have 30 grams of carbs in them. And I had a little snap lock bag of Alan's Party Mix, shout out. And I was sort of just monitoring it as I was running. So I dropped my basal to 30%. So I wasn't getting much insulin, started at around 12. And before I knew it, I was plummeting. And when I saw that I got to about 10, I took a gel because I knew that it was going to keep going down. So I took the gel, and I kid you not, within about half an hour, let me see if I can fire up the graph here and just show you and show everyone who's watching. But in about half an hour, my level had dropped from 10 to about 5. And I was pumping in lollies, and nothing was working. So here we go. This might show you just a little bit here. So 543, 12.2. And then you can see the downward spiral. That happened really quickly. So I dropped down to from 542, where I was 12.2, at 628, I was 5.4.
Cool. And
So
for those listening at home, Brayden is showing us a graph that looks like the Grand Canyon.
yeah, it went straight down.
Yeah.
Um,
He was not
so
mucking around.
no, and I kid you not, I had the gel, I had the whole little Snap Lock bag of lollies, and I also bought a Powerade. So I
Mm.
reckon I had about, if not close to 100 grams of carbs in a very
Mm.
short space of time, and it just kept going down. And it wasn't until I actually stopped for a good 20 minutes that it sort of started to plateau and go back up, as you can see. And I could keep running. But then I knew as soon as I finished running, I was like, I'm in trouble. Like, I'm just going to go. I'll see you at 25 because
Oh,
it's not going to stop. But it didn't. Got up to 14 and then plummeted again. But yeah, that was just really annoying because I was so dialed in and I was like, this is
yeah.
going to be great. And everything was feeling amazing. And then just the blood sugar level was just plummeting. Nothing was counteracting the drop. And it just all went to poop. So,
Gee, I wonder what happened. I wonder what was going on inside your body for that to
ex-
happen. So
exactly.
random.
Exactly. And that's exactly what Emma said to me. She was like, I just don't understand what's happening. And I was like, I knew this was going to happen, but I don't know why. And like, I had pumped so much sugar into my body and it was still just dropping. Like, the gel that I
Mm.
took with the 30 grams of carbs did nothing at all,
Mm.
nothing, which is crazy. Like, it's just one of those things, right? It's just one of those things of diabetes that you just can't comprehend why, I think,
Mm.
is the thing.
Do you find it's easier sometimes to just not ask why and just be like, we'll never know?
Yeah, yeah. Live in denial.
Just let
That's
it go.
what I
Yeah.
do, yeah. That's how I roll with diabetes. Like, I don't know how that happens, but it does. And I knew it was gonna happen too beforehand. Like, I
Mm.
knew that's what was gonna happen. So note to self and for everyone out there, like, if you're going for a run, don't start with insulin on board because it's probably the worst thing you can do. So
Ah, well,
look,
live and
the run
learn.
itself was good. The run was good. The body felt good, and I'm going to take that. The diabetes was not good, but
Hmm.
that's okay. We'll deal with that.
Well,
So
yeah, you had so many like positive effects that are beyond your blood sugar levels. Like you would have been, the endorphins were pumping. You did something you told yourself you were going to do. You went for that run, added
exactly,
another
yeah,
one, chalked another one up on the board.
that's exactly right. Yeah, so I was pretty happy with it. And like, what are we now? 3.5 weeks, I think, till the half marathon, which is terrifying. So
Yeah.
I hope everyone's down there. I want to see everyone down there. Come cheer us on. It'll be fun.
I don't know if I told you this, but a few weeks, or maybe it was a couple months ago, so for context, my entire family, we're not sporty people. Like in school, my mum would actively tell my brother and I, like, look, if you don't want to do sport today, like, that's okay. Like, we don't need to do sport.
Yeah.
And a couple months ago, I found out my brother had decided he was going to run a marathon. And I was like,
True.
no, you're not. Like, don't, like, Matthew, like we're not meant for running. Like our
Yeah.
bodies, our family, we're not meant for running. We're not meant for marathons. Having said that, though, like my dad used to run back-to-back marathons when he was like in his 20s. Like he ran so many marathons. Like,
Yeah. Wow.
and this was back in the day when you didn't have music to run to. Like you would just be running with your own thoughts, which
Yeah.
sounds terrifying to me.
Yeah. It's a very
But
different
yeah,
world back
so
then.
very different world. Because I guess you can't even like run with a Walkman. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
wild
and
to think
like,
about.
and the shoes, like, weirdly, but the shoes are completely different. And it was
Yeah.
kind of like before running was cool. So it was like you'd run a marathon and there'd be no one there,
Oh yeah,
like no
people would
one
think that you
supporting.
were like psycho. Like you'd be like, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, my dad used to do that all the time, and then yeah, my brother ran the Vancouver Marathon on the weekend
Really?
successfully. Yeah, he finished.
Wow. Cool. How good? Good on him.
I was like unreal. So yeah,
Good on
super
him.
super proud of him.
I'm the beast too. Like,
A whole nother
21 Ks is a
beast.
long way, but like 42 just sounds.
Yeah, and he's like a tall guy. Like he's at least a head taller than me, and I can't even imagine like galloping that body for 42
Yeah.
k's. Just
Yeah.
So much respect.
Good
But
on
now
him.
it makes
Well
me
done.
look bad because I have no interest in running a marathon.
Let's sign you up for a 5K maybe. We'll start small.
Yeah, 5K I can do. I'll allow it. We should do a fundraiser. We should do a GoFundMe to pay for my like physio that will be required after me running a 5K race.
To see the podiatrist after that. Get your feet
I
sorted back out.
will. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my week has been pretty good. I'm tired. I don't know if you can tell, guys. I'm recording from home today. It's the first time I recorded from home.
We both are.
I couldn't do it today. I couldn't get into the office where I usually record. So you might see me at home sometimes because when you get exhausted and you need a break, you just gotta survive, not thrive. So we are surviving this week.
Why not?
Absolutely. And I don't think I'm going to sound that different. You guys tell me in the comments if I sound any different, if all that fancy podcasting equipment is actually doing anything. Because I'm not quite so sure that it does. But I've had a good week otherwise. Went to Sunrise Festival last week, which is a like techie startup-y conference, which was really fun. It actually made me think the lineup of speakers was like a bit weird. Some of the speakers were really, really good, but the agenda was just a little bit random, but there was a lot of conversations around new media. And the ex-journo and me, I just couldn't resist going to these like media talks and just hearing panel discussions about where is media now? Is it actually, creating anything of value for society? Where did they go wrong? And sitting there listening about how legacy media just really missed the boat in not keeping up with the times and keeping up with this new attention sphere that we're in with, our attention spans are so short, we're preferring video content, but long form content still has a place if it's audio or video. It just got me thinking about this idea of like legacy healthcare, and I could see so many parallels between like the healthcare system is also not keeping up with the way that we're consuming information. But in terms of media, like I guess the ramifications of that is that people stop reading the news or people go to different sources for their news information, which is what's happened. A lot of independent media companies have closed down. But the ramifications for healthcare not creating content that is easily consumable by people and not in the kind of context of what they want is so more severe, like where people are going to become disengaged from their healthcare system. People are going to look to not so trustworthy sources for their information. And it just got me thinking. I found that a really interesting topic because in hospital, like they're still handing out PDFs of information. And I'm just not quite sure who has the time or capacity to read, to consume information like that, particularly when it's really important.
Yeah, and there's parallels between the media and like what you were saying with the healthcare and stuff like that. It's a really interesting thought though, isn't it? Like it's not something you really think about, even like just off the back of that. Like we've seen so many obviously print companies and those old school media companies obviously go bust and shut down because we consume content through Facebook and Instagram and different sources like that. But where does that leave? Yeah, where does that leave, obviously, like pharmacies and stuff like that? Will things eventually go digital and things be delivered? And, like obviously with what you're doing with Strip Supply and delivering goods so people don't have to go to the pharmacy, like, is there a universe where we won't have the need for a pharmacy anymore?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting comment. And I think I think we'll always need to have in-person interaction, particularly with healthcare. But I think we need to be investing more time into how we interact with people outside of the clinic. I think I read a stat the other day particularly with chronic conditions and chronic care management. 80% of outcomes are based on what a patient does outside of the clinic than in a doctor's appointment. So I think it just got me thinking about what are some ways that we could be better packaging up, like the information that hospitals and clinics are giving out is super, super valuable. How can we package it up in a way that's engaging to consume?
Yeah. And maybe it's one of those things that, it just can't be made engaging because the content is so dry and it just has to be consumed. And it comes back to the person consuming it. It's on them, I suppose, in a way. But
I
Interesting
don't
thought.
believe that.
Yeah.
Everything can be engaging. Everything can be engaging. But
Just
aside
plug
from
into
that,
Chat GPT and see what it spits out. Make this engage.
have you seen? Well, there's that platform where you can put if you need to learn something, for example, you put this script into this platform and it makes it's not like a TikTok video, but it's like a streaming video of like you're watching someone playing a game or something. You know, like those
True.
streamers.
Yeah.
And it so you have something to watch as it's like, and as you listen to the content.
Wow.
I can't really remember what it is, but it's really interesting. Anyway, so that's my mini rant of the week. Apparently, I have one every week now. But aside from that, you know how I told you I'm playing that new card game?
Yeah.
Well, new to
How's that
me.
going?
We went to the card shop again last weekend to play as like our Friday night thing now, and I won. I won one.
Let's go.
I won my first multiplayer game, and it was so satisfying. I like pulled out this big trick, and he's like, "Well, I'm gonna block you," and I was like, you can't block me. I have Skulk," which is not gonna mean anything to you, but it was so satisfying. So yeah, that was the high of my week.
There is nothing more satisfying. We started playing like Yahtzee, like just for something fun to do, where we're just sitting around doing nothing. And like Emma never played it before she met me, and she beats me every flipping time. But when I get one back on her, I tell you what, it's like I've just won like the world champ. So I'm like, let's go.
You know what? I don't think I've ever played Yahtzee.
It's fun. It's fun for when you're just sitting around. Like if you got something on TV in the background, and you can just like play Yahtzee for a little bit. Yeah, it's fun.
It's like dice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is fun. But yeah, I feel when I get one back and celebrating like I've just like literally won a gold medal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
that's been my week. I'm not sure if I have any lows. I'm just tired.
that's the low.
That's the low.
There's a lot
But
happening.
otherwise good. Yeah. Tired for good reasons. So
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. No, nice. Well, that's all right. I actually had Max McNown concert the other night up at the Tivoli in Brisbane. He played on Tuesday night. So when was that? 2 days ago, which is unbelievable. He's like, do you know him? You might know him. You might know some of his stuff.
I was like, I'm going to nod along and smile and pretend like I know who this is.
I think you'd know some of his songs. Like he was on TikTok for a little bit, but he was really good. And that was on Tuesday night off the back of Book Fair weekend. So like yesterday, I was literally like as useful as an ashtray on a motorbike. I was shocking, but yeah, I was not well. But that was also really good. And I have booked flights to Sydney, so we're coming down for the ball. It's all official.
That's right.
It's locked in.
And I think
Flights are booked.
I'm so glad you brought this up. I think we have 2 seats left at our table. So
Really?
we're going to leave a note in
Let's go.
a link in the show notes. My words aren't wording today. We're going to leave a link in the show notes. If you would like to come to Sydney on June 14th to come to the Jelly Bean Ball with the Danny Foundation, please get a ticket. It's for a great cause. Put Strip Supply table in the special requests box upon checkout. It is fundraising to purchase insulin pumps for Australians who need them but can't afford them. So super, super awesome cause. We've got a ripper table together already. It's going to be such a fun night. You and I just need to decide what the hell we're wearing.
Yeah, look, I haven't even looked into that. And like, I don't own a tux, so I'm going to have to find something soon.
Well, yeah, I also have a wedding in June, and yesterday I got this phone call, and I've been invited to this dinner in 2 weeks in Brisbane, by the way. So I'm coming back to Brisbane in 2 weeks for a couple of nights.
Back. Nice.
And thank you very much. And it's a 4-ball dinner, and I have to wear evening wear. And it's black tie, and I was like, I don't have clothes for this.
Oh my God. Have fun with that.
But anyway, stay tuned for that.
That'll be the first dilemma. We'll keep you updated on that one.
Yeah, but guys, we'll leave a link in the show notes. Come join us at the Jelly Bean Ball. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, so keen. Looking forward to it big time. Let's talk about feet. How good?
Yeah, so I'm actually really excited. If we've been running this podcast for 18 months now, this is the first time that an episode has been sponsored. And I'm so excited that it's Dermal Therapy. They reached out to us. They have this incredible range of skincare products, particularly for the feet. And they are all medical grade, clinically tested, all that kind of stuff. I know that I have been using Dermal Therapy deodorant ever since the crystal deodorant went viral on TikTok because it actually does work. It actually blows my mind. But Brayden, every strip supply box this month is receiving a sample of the Dermal Therapy Heel Balm to try
True.
for themselves at home. So you can listen to this podcast
There you
episode,
go.
learn why taking care of your feet is so important. We've got some tips in this episode about adding good foot care into your everyday routine, and the Heel
Yeah.
Balm is a part of that. Actually, I opened up the boxes last week to see what the samples looked like because I got like 20 boxes delivered, which was a little more
Wow.
than what I was expecting. And I pulled it out. It's a full-size Heel Balm. It's not even a sample. Like, you are getting a sizable tube. So I'll have to send you some, or maybe I'll just make you sign up to Strip Supply this month so you actually get some.
Can I just say, I've actually got really nice feet. So I'll
Okay, do you? I do not believe that for a second.
for someone who runs a lot, my feet actually aren't in bad nick, but I'm very keen to get my hands on this and try it.
Yeah. I'll send you some. But
Yeah, shout out to Dermal Therapy.
you know,
you go.
obviously we haven't had sponsors or advertisers before.
No.
But as a business, it's kind of a bit yucky to talk about sometimes, but it is important for a business to have these different revenue streams and to make a profit. I feel like sometimes profit is a dirty word because I think big businesses really ruin that word for everybody because they reinvest profits into just like the CEO's salary and extra perks for them. But for us in Strip Supply, these new revenue streams, these sponsors, they allow us to reinvest into new services for our members and to create a platform that is even more supportive than what we already are. So so that is the benefit of having advertisers.
Yeah, and look, like sponsors and profit for small businesses is a lot different to, say a big corporation. So, like businesses supporting businesses on the smaller scale is so important. And
Absolutely.
It's not something that we talk about often or you talk about often, but sponsorship and things like that is so important for small businesses. So shout out to Dermal Therapy for jumping on board.
Yeah, absolutely. They're so excited to be supporting this community. And, if you guys want to help us get more advertisers and more exciting freebies into your boxes, you can do so by sharing this podcast, leaving a review, giving us 5-star rating, wherever you listen to this podcast. I cannot tell you how much that helps. So
please do it.
take a screenshot of this podcast, post it to Instagram, tag us. We want to see where you're listening to the Strip Pod.
Absolutely. And of course, at the end of the day, they're supporting other diabetics in the community. So by giving free products. So it's helping you guys out. So that's what we're all about.
Absolutely. But enough yapping from us. Let's get into the episode. Let's dive into today's episode. And today we're joined by Neda Piri, founder of Podiatry Beyond and a powerhouse in all things foot health. She's a senior podiatrist, qualified personal trainer, and passionate advocate for keeping our bodies moving well. From fungal nail laser therapy to Brazilian jiu-jitsu, there is not much she hasn't done. Neda, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on today.
So can you tell us a little bit about your journey into podiatry? So for some people, myself included, feet might not be an appealing profession, but they are such an important part of our everyday life. Can you tell me what drew you to podiatry?
You're so right. Feet are definitely not for everybody. In fact, it definitely wasn't for me at the beginning either. I was actually straight out of high school. I went into pharmacy. I wasn't even doing podiatry to begin with. I just thought I'll do an undergraduate degree like pharmacy and then hopefully do my GAMSAT and get into medicine because I always wanted to become a doctor. But literally 3 or 4 months into pharmacy, I was like, I just don't think this is for me. Like, kudos to all the incredible pharmacists out there. I have so much respect for them, but it just wasn't the career I think that suited me. So I very much, to my parents' surprise, dropped out of pharmacy with no idea of what I wanted to do. I just wanted to go into something that would be a good, I suppose, foundation before medicine. And I went and spoke to a whole bunch of GPs. I literally booked GP appointments to go talk to the GP about professions that would get me into medicine or like help me with medicine. And they all said podiatry. they were like, podiatry is so needed in Australia. You get to work with so many different people, different types of podiatry. It's very clinical, hands-on. You build rapport with your patients. And I was like, but it's feet. Do I even like my own feet? Like, I don't even have nice feet. And then I thought, I'll give it a go. Worst case, I can change again. And the rest is history. I never even went on to do medicine. I was like, podiatry is for me.
Oh, it sounds like
So
an
yeah,
amazing story. I feel like there is an alternate reality where you would be a pharmacist and working for me. Like I
could you imagine? That would be such a
Could you
dream.
imagine? Yeah. And full disclosure, Neda, you are my podiatrist, and I've absolutely loved being in your care. And the reason why I first came to you because I needed help with my feet because I was waking up every morning and having shooting pain up my heels, and you really helped
Yes.
me to figure out why on earth that was happening. I was in my 20s. I was like, I should be able to walk in the morning when I'm in my 20s.
Yeah.
And as a personal trainer and a podiatrist, I feel like you have this really unique view on the feet and how movement affects our everyday life. Can you talk a little bit about that connection between movement and foot health?
Yeah, definitely. I think every single day I'm reminded just how important it is. There is definitely a connection between moving and having comfortable feet, or at least feet that in the long term are generally healthier. And that's, if you can do movement, obviously. There are some that can't move their feet, and that's a unique case. But for most people, if we are moving regularly, if we can do some sort of consistent exercise, and that could be anything, like whatever it is you love to do, walking, dancing, running, jujitsu, weightlifting, anything. It's the fact that when we are moving, we're addressing range of motion, like we're able to move our feet, our joints, ligaments, tendons. We're encouraging blood flow to our feet. A lot of people actually forget that the very structure that supplies blood to our feet is our arteries, and our arteries are muscles. So the more we work on moving our body, the stronger they can actually become in most cases. And then also our venous return, our blood back to our heart gets better as well. Not only that, it's our movement is our independence. If we aren't moving very much, it generally means that over time we lose that ability to move comfortably. Okay, if we don't use it, we do start to lose it. And I think when we make it a habit to actually be moving regularly, our feet in the long term definitely thank us for it in all possible ways: vascularity, muscular, neurological. You can tell when I see patients that are in their later stages of life, your geriatric patients, the ones that have really prioritized their movement, they are generally able to be more independent, move around, and their foot health in general is so much better.
Because losing that independence is just so isolating, particularly in elderly people, but even for young people. If you're losing your movement, you miss out on so many parts of life.
Oh, 100%. I think we often take it for granted because we're so used to our feet just being this part of our body that works well. But it's not until you have, like in your case, even just getting up first thing in the morning and having foot pain, it's not only physically debilitating, but mentally it has an effect on your mental health as well. Like you feel grumpier, you're more irritated. Like you're like, this thing should just be working. Really, we take it for granted. And at the end of the day, they do require love. I think we just think that our feet should work all the time, but they do require us giving them some attention and being consistent in our movements.
And this is one of the first things you taught me when I came in to see you, and that was that pain that you're experiencing in other places of your body can also be connected to your feet. Like so many parts of your body are all connected, and you blew my mind with this because I was also experiencing hip pain and knee pain, and I thought they were all completely separate issues. But can you tell us about this connection, particularly in the lower part of our body, about when you may not even realize you're having problems with your feet because it's showing up in other parts of your body?
Definitely. Well, at the end of the day, I suppose it's all one chain. Like they are all interrelated, especially with the lower limbs. They're a weight-bearing structure. They're carrying you around. So if there is an issue potentially occurring at your feet, you may be compensating with how you're moving at your knees as well as your hips. And then vice versa, if a patient comes in and they've had a history of lower back pain, for example, that lower back pain can have referred pain all the way down to your feet. The nerves at your lower back, they can get referred pain. So the most common one is like sciatic pain. You can get sciatic pain all the way down your leg. And then sometimes we can get patients that come in with numbness and tingling in their toes that may be related to an impingement in their back or their hip. So it is very much all related. It's hard sometimes to look at a patient with our blinkers on just at the feet. And I think that's where most people don't realize with podiatry, we've got a really great idea of the anatomy of the whole lower limbs because we respect and understand that they are interrelated. We ideally shouldn't be putting our blinkers on and just looking at your foot and ankle. We should be asking those questions about what's occurring with the rest of your lower limbs as well.
100%. And you're also a huge mover yourself. I always see you online doing crazy fitness classes and running. Tell me about your own go-to forms of movement and exercise at the moment.
So at the moment, other than being sick with a chest infection for the last fortnight, so sorry, again, apologies for my voice. Typically, I go to FitStop. So FitStop, I'm sure people have probably heard of it, but for those that haven't, it's a mix of like your heavyweight training, accessory movements, and then some high interval intensity training as well. And then, so I'll go to that most days. And then I also love to run. So if I am not too busy with work, I'll try to go for at least 2 runs a week. And I've got some goals for some more half marathons this year. So trying to fit it all in. But
Yeah,
I honestly love any movement. Like I'll do anything and everything. I just love exercising.
You can. I feel like you and Brayden, I should connect you two so you can be on this half marathon training together. He's doing the Brisbane Marathon in the middle of the year, the Brisbane Half Marathon.
Yes.
And I feel like you would have the best access to shoes for running because shoes are so important, right? On
Yes.
what shoes you wear every day. Can you talk to that and tell me, like, how much of an impact does the shoes you wear have on your foot health?
I think it is the most important thing. I may get in trouble for saying that, but I truly believe that like footwear can change your life. I will never ever not get over saying that statement, but particularly for people that are really active. So for running, I know that like one of the most common things I see is a patient using the same pair of shoes for all types of activities, whether it's their weight training, their walking, and their running. And sometimes us just introducing a secondary pair of shoes that's predominantly for their running can change their whole outlook on everything and increase their comfort in their feet so drastically. And for me, that's something that I practice myself. So I'll happily preach it. I don't think one shoe should be used for every single activity. Like you wouldn't wear, your business outfit for your half marathon, right? So you're not going to go along and wear the same shoes that you go and do your walk to get a coffee for your half marathon. So I think once we can affirm that shoes make a difference and they impact how we perform in that activity, you start to just look at your footwear differently as well.
100%. And what would you say is one myth or misconception about podiatry that you wish more people understood? I feel like shoes was probably a pretty good one. Is there anything else?
I think people often think of podiatry as this profession that predominantly only treats older patients. But we don't. We see patients of all ages. Like the youngest patient I've ever seen was 4 months old, and the oldest patient I've seen was 104. So we see anywhere and everything in between. And we don't just cut toenails, I swear. We have so many areas of our profession, from pediatrics to surgery, diabetic foot care, muscular podiatry. So we do more than just cut toenails for older patients, I promise.
Yeah. Speaking of all the things that you do in the diverse areas of podiatry, so you own and run a podiatry clinic in Brisbane, Podiatry Beyond. But before that, you were doing so many different things in podiatry world. You've run mobile clinics, you've done fungal nail therapy. What have you learned from all of these experiences?
A lot, definitely a lot. I think the most profound role for me was definitely mobile podiatry. I worked for this amazing company, shout out to them, the Foot Stop. I learnt so much in that role because I had to learn to work autonomously really well with very minimal resources because you're on the road. And sometimes I would go into a patient's home where I'm the only person they're seeing in that week or fortnight or sometimes even a month. So it also taught me the importance of communication, not just to get health data out of them so that it could benefit my job so I can treat them better, but also on a human level that these feet are attached to a human that also enjoys human interaction. Not all the time, but most of the time. So it really, again, expanded my idea that I'm not just there as a podiatrist to help their feet. Like, I've got to actually talk to this patient and appreciate that they have things to say, a story to be told. And that made me fall in love with podiatry even more because that's what keeps the job going. If I'm just looking at someone's feet, like, that's repetitive after a period of time. But when you talk to patients and you get depth out of that patient, it's so much more exciting, so much more interesting, and the passion just continues to grow. So I've got to thank Mobile Podiatry for that. And I had the best boss ever. She's actually like on the Australian podiatry team now as well. So she taught me so much. And from the Fungal Nail Clinic, that was really unique because I really mostly worked with toenails in that job and obviously seeing some really severe cases. But it also showed me, it probably proved a myth for myself that just because someone's quote unquote healthy or prioritizing their overall health, that doesn't necessarily mean that damage to their toenails or feet can't happen. So it opened my eyes. You know, some people working in an industry, like I had a lot of patients that were cleaners and their feet are in shoes and socks all day and they're exposed to moist environments and chemicals. And even though they were in their early 20s, they had some really severe fungal nail infections. So it completely removed this idea for me that unhealthy toenails or damaged toenails is linked to an unhealthy person. That's not the case at all. There are so many external factors that can affect our feet.
I love this human approach that you have to healthcare and to podiatry. It's taking a whole person holistically instead of just looking at their feet and trying to find out what the problem is. Because people aren't necessarily coming to you because they have calluses on their feet or something. They're coming to you because they're finding pain when they walk and they can't do the things that they enjoy. And I absolutely love this mindset and this approach that you have. It's a mindset that we love at Strip Supply. And I think that's a really good segue into diving into why foot health is so important for people with diabetes. And you touched on a great point there about sometimes people can do everything the right way, doesn't mean that it's going to have the outcome that you were expecting.
100%.
And we know that high blood sugar levels for extended periods of time across a person's life can contribute to reduced circulation and nerve damage. But in your experience and in your words, for people living with diabetes, why do you think foot care is so important?
Well, like I totally agree with you as well. Obviously, in the case of type 1 diabetics, you know, it's not like they've done something wrong. It's the body that's caused these changes, right? So sometimes it's totally out of their control. They've just got to work with it rather than against it to get better outcomes. But unfortunately, and I hate having a negative connotation when it comes to things with diabetes. It's like I feel like it just is what it is. So if I say unfortunately, it's not in a negative way. It's just that it is what it is and we've got to work with it, right? When it comes to diabetes, it does make the lower extremities, but mostly obviously the feet, a little bit more vulnerable to changes. And it is, I want to really, really stress, it is over a prolonged period of time. So I often have patients that might have just been diagnosed, whether it's type 1 or even type 2. Type 2 can be a little bit different sometimes. But, you know, they'll come in really nervous and a bit apprehensive and scared because they think that foot changes or foot complications are going to occur straight away. And it's unlikely that that's the case. It can take time for feet to have these changes because of diabetes, but it can happen. Even though it's slow, it will happen if the sugar levels are intentionally left uncontrolled or if it's kind of neglected, right? And there's multiple ways where the feet are a little bit more vulnerable. So some of the main ways that they are affected is your nerves. So we can eventually have diabetic neuropathy, which is changes or damage to the nerves in your feet. And again, slow, but unfortunately, most of the time, if we've gotten to the point where a patient does have diabetic neuropathy, it's usually, and I want to be careful with my words, often irreversible. So if we've lost that sensation, it's pretty rare for us to get that back. And then also we can have vascular changes, so changes to our circulation. And that's because, again, prolonged high blood sugar levels, it can affect the cells that supply that blood to our feet. And that can result in many, many changes as well. And then also two other things, it makes us a little bit more vulnerable to infection. So unfortunately, because the diabetics are generally considered slightly immunocompromised, there is a greater chance of infection. So something that might be simple to say you and I that aren't diabetics, like a blister, right? Blister, we just go, that will heal. I'll keep it covered. I'll avoid dirt getting in. And, we take that into consideration. But for a diabetic, it's really important. That is an open portal of infection, and being immunocompromised, the body may not be able to heal as quickly as someone that's not diabetic. And then one last one that I think is not often spoken about as well is with diabetic foot complications, sometimes we can also get changes, and this is if it's really prolonged and uncontrolled. We can get changes to the tendons and the actual mobility in our feet. There's a super fancy word in podiatry. It's a good one to pull out at parties. It's called non-enzymatic glycosylation. And
wow.
it's a fancy word. It's a fancy word. And it is generally when the blood sugar levels have caused, say, something like your Achilles tendon, which is at the back of your foot, to become really sticky over time, because collagen in your Achilles is supposed to move so smoothly and in such a flexible way. But unfortunately, sugar loves tendons as well. So it'll go in there and make it really sticky and stiff. So then we don't have that same flexible movement in our ankle range of motion. And you can imagine if we're not moving comfortably or as fluid-like in our ankles repetitively for years, and then we've got increased likelihood of callus at our heels, or we might end up with some more foot deformities. So things are gradual, but they do still change over time if we don't address it or action it early.
Yeah, and I think the benefit of these changes taking place over time, like what you just said, is that usually it's preventable if we're
Yes.
breaking it down into smaller, getting regular checks, doing daily checks on ourselves. If we break it down into these routines and habits, then these things are preventable usually in most cases. What would you say are some early warning signs that something might be wrong with someone's feet?
Agree completely. Prevention, especially with diabetic foot care, so important, particularly because if someone is able to have access to a podiatrist, I always acknowledge maybe some patients in rural areas or areas where there isn't a podiatrist conveniently nearby, they may not be able to access it as frequently as someone in metropolitan areas. But thank goodness for things like telehealth and stuff. I would say if you've got a great baseline understanding of your feet and you know what your feet look like, you're going to be so much more aware of changes happening. So, for example, some of the signs and changes of things happening or changing would be, let's break it up into neurological and vascular nerve changes. So, if you're starting to notice numbness, tingling, cloud-like sensation in your feet where you're not quite getting that same feedback that you would when you stand up and put your feet on the ground, that tells me that there are changes occurring to your nerves. How are your blood glucose levels going? How's your HbA1c going? Do you have a good relationship with your GP where they are actually monitoring that every 3 months or every 6 months? If you know what your norm is, and everyone's norm can be different. I understand there are normative values, but everyone's norm is slightly different. If you know your norm and you go, I'm noticing these nerve changes, I'm getting some numbness and tingling, go get a blood test done. Maybe the HbA1c is a little bit higher. What's going on? What's happening in your life? All right. And then vascular changes. These ones are probably a little bit more visual as well, because you can't really see what's actually happening with your nerves. It's definitely more of an internal thing. But luckily with vascular changes, you can actually visually see them as well as physically feel them as well. And that might be changes in the temperature of your feet. Are you noticing that your feet are really, really cold, or are they really warm? The coldness could indicate that you're not getting as much blood flow to your feet, or the warmth could mean your blood's not returning back to your heart effectively. Also, even things like your hair. Is there hair growth? Are we having hair loss? What does the color of my feet look like? The integrity of my skin? A really good analogy I give my patients is I want you to think of your feet as a garden, right? And if your garden has really rich soil, great fertilizer, an abundance of growth and different colors, that tells me that you've got a healthy garden, right? Think of your feet as the blood being the fertilizer and your soil. If we're getting great blood supply and blood return, our feet have got good fertilizer and things should grow. Your nails, your hair, your skin should be somewhat of a vibrant color, the same color as your shin, unless you're out in the sun all the time. So if you're noticing that, hey, I'm actually starting to lose some of my pedal hair, which is a hair on your feet, even that is a good reason to be like, hey, doc, do you mind just having a quick check of my feet, or should I be seeing my podiatrist to go have a neurovascular assessment done?
There's some great tips. And I think we forget how many different characteristics our feet have. Like you talked about the color of the skin, the feeling, even the hair on your feet, which I usually hate. But now I'm starting to see that it's a sign that my feet are healthy and doing well.
Yes.
And even things like, you know, every once in a while taking the nail polish off your toenails, right? And just making sure there's nothing underneath them. Yeah.
Definitely. That's a really, really, really big one. And we are in this culture of, for some reason, no one likes natural nails. I love natural nails. But here I am with my shellac on today. But I promise you, I never ever get my toenails done. It's only ever my fingernails, and I have a break all the time. But with the toenails, we have this culture of them always being painted. And regular nail polish is one thing, but for the patients out there that do get shellac or gel polish, and they get it repeatedly every month for years, please check your toenails. Like, have a break from whether it's regular polish or your gel polish. Have a look at your nail integrity. Take photos of your feet. Like, it's so silly, but when you kind of look at your feet every day, you get used to it and you forget what they used to look like. But even if you take a photo of your toenails or your feet once every 6 months, you can actually go back and be like, hold on a second, this creamy white discoloration that's on my big toenail, it wasn't there 6 months ago. And then let's say you don't have time to go see a podiatrist, you can take another photo in 6 months. You go, that creamy discoloration of a dot is now covering the entirety of my nail plate. This is time to go and have someone look at it.
Yeah,
So,
get it checked out.
like, check your toenails, please. And underneath your feet, it's really easy to look at the tops of your feet. But when I ask patients to do a diabetic foot check daily, I don't mean just look at the top of your feet. I tell them to have a look at the tops of your feet, have a look at the inside, outside, brief look underneath. And if mobility is an issue or it's hard to tell, get a mirror or ask a friend, ask a family member, ask anyone, ask your GP to check for you as well.
So before we jump back in, feet first, pun intended, it's time for our foot care hack of the week, brought to you by Dermal Therapy, our sponsor for today's episode, our very first sponsor. I'm excited. Everyone here at Strip Supply is very excited. Now, the Dermal Therapy Heel Balm is an awesome product to add into your nighttime routine. It's a great habit reminder to do your diabetes foot checks, and it is clinically proven to hydrate and repair dry feet. Plus, it's been podiatrist recommended for years. And if it's also not a product that I've tried myself. I do not have diabetes, but I do have heels, and this heel balm has been awesome to keep my heels from getting dry and cracked. Now, Neda, I'd love to get your take of your foot care hack of the week. What is your top foot health hack for people living with diabetes?
I suppose this is helpful for diabetics, but also patients that don't, or people that don't have diabetes as well. It's going to sound so simple, but I promise you it's effective. Consistency. Just because you've got the cream and you have it sitting there, let's say whatever your moisturizer is, love anything that's got urea in it, obviously. So in terms of moisturizing, do it consistently. A lot of people think that if you've got a moisturizer and you're applying it once a week, that it's going to be effective. It's better than not applying it. But even if you have the tiniest bit of your balm or your lotion or your mousse, make sure that you're actually applying a little bit quite regularly, every day, every second day. And do not forget to actually massage it in. Some patients will just apply, or some people, sorry, will apply their moisturizer really superficially. So they'll just like rub their balm over their heel and then just think that that's doing its work. But my hack is massage it in. Actually spend like a good 45 seconds to a minute rubbing that lotion, cream, balm into your skin, because then it's actually going to absorb more effectively and you're going to get the most out of your moisturizer rather than it just sitting there and maybe mostly getting absorbed by your socks or your bed sheets if you're doing it at night.
I love that hack. And sometimes habits can be really hard to form and to remember to do them when you're first starting them. I have to take a medication at the same time every night. And when I first started taking it, I would always forget. So I set an alarm, which was at like the same time every night. And it's just a picture of a pill. And it reminds me, like, I have to physically go and turn off the alarm. And when you were just saying like rubbing the feet in, I feel like this would be a great time to like set a song as an alarm at night when you usually go to bed. And then it's like the length of that song is how long you should like be massaging your feet for.
Oh my God, that's so good. I hadn't even thought of doing that.
There you go, guys. Two hacks
Two
for the
hacks.
price of one. Thank you so much to Dermal Therapy for sponsoring today's episode and letting us have Neda come on the pod to chat about this really important topic. So, Neda, at what point should somebody go from self-care and, you know, we're doing our daily foot checks, or, you know, if we need a lower barrier to entry, we're doing our weekly foot checks and we've noticed something change. At what point should someone go and see a podiatrist?
Well, I just want to say, if you are a diabetic, generally at a minimum, annual foot checks, regardless. Okay. If you've got access to it, or if you can't go physically, even through some sort of telehealth or like a FaceTime type consultation, minimum annually, we should be having foot health checks anyway. Okay. But if you've noticed that something has changed, that is also a call to action. Change, like for me, I always tell people no news or no changes to health is the best possible thing we could look for. So if you have already now actually physically noticed a change, or you can visually see a change, go see someone. Generally, early interventions will lead to better outcomes. So, and I'm not a big fan of reactive health. I like preventative health as much as possible. So if you've noticed some changes to your feet, go see a podiatrist as soon as possible. But as an example, nail care, if you're finding that you are a diabetic and unfortunately your toenails are a little bit more vulnerable to ingrowns, and you've given it a good crack of cutting them as straight as you can, but for some reason your toenails keep turning in and you're getting infections, that's probably when I'd say, please book in to see a podiatrist. It doesn't mean that they're going to ask you to come back every time you need your nails cut. They might just give you one treatment, educate you really well on what to look for, how to cut them properly, and then say, hey, let's do a check-in again in a few weeks or months. And then our goal is for you to be able to cut your toenails effectively yourself, right? If you can. But generally, get in to see your podiatrist as soon as you can if you've noticed a change.
And is podiatry one of the allied health sessions that would be covered under a diabetes care plan?
Do you mean the enhanced primary care plans, the EPCs?
Yes, maybe.
Yes. Yeah. So with the, I know, sorry, state by state, it can be a little bit different. But with EPCs in Queensland, patients, if they are a diabetic, are eligible for a Medicare rebate to come in and see podiatrists. The cost is obviously different based on every clinic, but that does mean that you will get a Medicare rebate. At this stage, I think it's like $60.35 back off your consultation. So it's pretty good. And that means that you can at least go once a year, or you can get up to 5 visits if your podiatrist needs to see you more regularly. Some places might bulk bill, some places might have a co-payment, or in the case of patients that are a high risk of developing foot complications, they may actually have access to public foot care as well.
Definitely check in with your state and see what's available to access.
100%. Just have that communication with your GP. And something I'll add, when you go and see your podiatrist for the first time for a diabetic foot assessment, As part of our assessments, we do something called neurovascular testing, where we actually give you a baseline and do our assessments to give you an idea of your foot health status. Your podiatrist will give you a guide as to how frequently you should be coming back based on your risk classification. So that's education that we will provide you at those consultations. In the case of people that are at lower risk, where there's no signs of peripheral neuropathy, no signs of vascular disease, we will generally say once a year for a diabetic foot check, or earlier if you need help with anything else. And then that classification goes up all the way to high risk or at risk if someone's got a current ulcer or a current foot issue.
And obviously, we've spoken so much about diabetes and foot health in this whole episode. But if you could drill it down to one thing, what do you think is the one thing that you wish every person with diabetes knew about their feet?
Oh, I wish they knew how much having an idea of what your norm is. I know I keep going back to that, but like just having an idea of this is what, like me, Neda, at 29, this is what my feet look like right now. I can see that my toenails are this color, my foot is this color, I've got hair on these toes, the shape of my foot is like this. And I can see I've got these skin marks and I don't have, these veins or anything there. And then having that idea of checking it regularly, super, super quickly, and then being aware that if I've done, say, for example, something like a long walk, and then I take my shoes off and my socks off, and I can see that my feet are really swollen, or I can see that my feet don't have great color, or there's a little bit of numbness and tingling, I know that those reasons are enough for me to go and action something. It doesn't have to be really, really bad to go and get something done. You are so feel free to be allowed to take your own foot health into your own hands and go and action it, whether it's the tiniest thing or the biggest thing. But just be aware of your current foot status, know your baseline so you can track if anything changes. At the end of the day, as a podiatrist, I might see my patient's feet fortnightly, monthly, 8 weeks, yearly. You're seeing your feet every day. That can be a good thing and a bad thing because we forget what they look like when you're looking at every day because you don't notice change, or we can look at them and then go, hold on, I don't remember if that same mark or if this same sensation was there yesterday. You've got to be able to track your feet however way you can do that.
Yeah, let's normalize having a foot pics album on our phone.
Yes.
For your eyes only.
You could go through my feet. You could go through my phone, sorry.
Just for your eyes and your podiatrist's eyes, okay? But guys, let's create albums on our phone of our foot pics. I do have an album on my phone of like different freckles on my body that I'm like watching
I have that too.
for skin cancers. Yeah, let's normalize having a foot pics album.
Also, can we also normalize seeing a podiatrist?
Yes.
For me, I think I tell my friends I'm going to my dentist or I'm going to the physio or I don't know, I'm going to go see my GP for this. But we don't talk about, hey, we're going to go see our podiatrist. We're also an allied health professional and we're there for preventative health. And we see people for their foot checks once or twice a year, whether they're diabetics or not. It should be routine and openly discussed in public, just like you're seeing your dentist. There's nothing shameful or there's no negative connotation with seeing a podiatrist. It should be publicly spoken about.
Because realistically, you're going to be healthier, happier, and being able to walk for much longer if you're taking care of your feet from today. So I hope that we've convinced people that your podiatrist is not just for cutting your toenails. Okay, they're great for preventative health, keeping you moving for longer. They can help you with personalized shoe recommendations, which is what I always pick Neda's brain about. They give you a baseline assessment for your foot health, educate you on correct foot care. Oh my gosh, there's so much that you guys do. And finally, Neda, we end every episode with asking our guest what is one piece of advice, a thought, or an insight that you would tell someone who's just been diagnosed with diabetes.
I think just know that you are definitely not alone. There are so many people with diabetes, and we live in this great time in society where there are so many amazing tools, tests, education, so many free resources, so many resources that are accessible through private and public sector, that there is a whole team that can help you. It's not something where you have to battle this condition alone. People are here to help you. People respect that, sometimes things happen outside of your control. There are some things that we can control, but regardless, we're here to make sure that we reduce the complications of diabetic foot related symptoms or pain or things like that as much as we can. So you are not alone. Use your team, use your resources, and don't be afraid to ask a million questions. The best thing I could recommend.
Oh, I absolutely love that thought to end on. Neda, thank you so much for joining us today and chatting
Thanks for
about
having
all
me.
things foot care. I will leave links in the show notes of how you can get in touch with Neda if you're in Brisbane and you want to visit her clinic. Also her socials where you share so many awesome tips and free resources to help with foot
Thank
care
you.
and educate your audience. Yes.
Also, I just want to say, don't forget, everyone generally will have a podiatry clinic near them. So, get familiar with your closest podiatry clinic. Get familiar with what's available to you, because there are a lot of us out there. There's so many podiatrists, and the profession is constantly growing. So, if you haven't been to a podiatrist before, get acquainted with your local podiatry clinic.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much, Neda, for coming on. We will chat to you again soon.
Bye.
Strip Supply acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this podcast on. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging.